doing an English monarch's family tree, but I have to get a name that starts with each letter. So we're going to start off with William the First. Note that it's, well, more of an English royalty family tree, not an English monarch family tree, but William the First has a child, Adela. Another child, Henry, who becomes King Henry the First. Henry has a daughter, Matilda. And Adela has a son, Stephen. Now William has another son, William the Conqueror. He has a son, and whose name? Constance. Or Constance. Anyway. Matilda has a son who is Henry II. He has a son who is Richard I. He has a brother, John, who becomes King John. Now, John has a son, Henry III, who has a son who is Edward I. And that's our E. Now, Henry I has a child, another child, named Fulk. He had a lot of children. He also had a Gilbert. So, and Adela has another child called Theobald. And he, my bad, I didn't realize that we didn't need the A anymore. I forgot because he had a daughter named Agnes, but let's put it in anyway. Now he has a child. Edward I has a child who is Edward II. Has a child who is Edward III. His child's name is Lionel. And there's the L. Edward III has another child whose name is Isabella. Henry II. He has another child whose name is Matilda. She has a son named Otto. Now, Lionel, but I gotta go back over here, has a daughter Philippa, and there we go. Edward III has another child named John. He's John of Gaunt. And John has a son, King Henry IV. And he has a son, Henry V. Now, Henry IV had another child, Blanche. Edward III has another child, Edmund. Edmund has a child, Richard. And then he has a child called Richard. Now Richard has another child. There are two children that are monarchs, so we'll just put them in. Oh, William the First, I meant to put it. He also has a son who's a monarch, William II. He is Edward the Fourth. And this guy, Richard III. Edward IV has a child who is Edward V. Now, Richard III has a daughter called Catherine, but she spells it with a K. She's the Countess of Pembrose. Now, John of Gaunt had another child who is John. He has a child, John. Child, Margaret. Child, Henry. He is Henry VII. He has a child, Henry VIII. He has a child, Edward VI. Other child, Mary I. And another child, Elizabeth I. Now, John I think it's that John, the son of John the Gaunt. He also has a child named Joan. Joan has a son who is James II of Scotland, James III of Scotland, James IV of Scotland, James V of Scotland, Mary Queen of Scots, James VI of Scotland. Now, James II of Scotland has another child. His name is David. And so he becomes James VI of Scotland and James I of England. James I's son is Charles, who becomes Charles I. And he has a son who is Charles II. Now, I keep getting the M and the N confused, and I don't know why. Anyway, he has another son. Charles I has another son, James II, and a daughter, who has a daughter, Mary II. And then the throne goes to Anne. James the First, in turn, has another child, Sophie. Elizabeth. And then Sophia. Then is George the First. Now Elizabeth has another child, Edward, who has a child, Anne, who has a child, N. Now, you might be like, N? What is that? Well, N starts with N, but seriously, her child's name was Anne, of the de Bourbon family. Anne de Bourbon, yep. Now, George the First has a son who is George the Second. George II has a child called Frederick. He has a few children, one of which is George III. Another of which is Caroline Matilda, but I'll just put Caroline. Caroline has a child called Frederick. And he's Frederick VI of Denmark. And he has a daughter, Wilhelmine. Now Frederick has another child named Augusta. I should mention I'm just looking at the family tree and I cannot confirm whether or not it goes further. She has another daughter named Augusta. I don't think I'm spelling Katharina correctly or pronouncing it. And she has a son called Napoleon. Napoleon has a child called Victor. Has a child called Marie Clotilde. Has a child called Yolande. Now Augusta has another child, Paul. Paul has a son, Frederick. Frederick has a son, William. He is William II of Württemberg. I'm not pronouncing that at all. It's this word. And he has a son called Ulrich. George III has a few children that we need. Edward, George IV, William IV. Edward has a daughter who's Queen Victoria. I think these last three are gonna be hard. I don't know if I'll be able to find them or not. Okay, Victoria has a child who is Edward VII. He has a child, George V. Oops. He has a child who is George VI. He has a daughter, Elizabeth II. She has a daughter, and she has a daughter, Zara. Anyway, George V has another son, who is King Edward VIII, and yet another son, Henry. Henry has a son called Richard. Richard has a son, Alexander. And he has a son, Zahn. Now Elizabeth II has another child, and he is the current king, King Charles III. So it's not looking like I can find the queue. I have literally one more place I can look. One more family tree line of the royal family. If not, I don't think I'll be able to find it. There's one more option that I just thought of that I don't know if this is going to work or not. And this may be kind of cheating. I think you guys will be able to understand what I'm doing. Going up from William the Conqueror through his ancestry, trying to find a Q. So I can't find it. But yeah. Names starting with every letter while we're going through the English monarchs, except for the letter Q, because I can't find it.